JonAnn Welch with J Welch Farms. We're cooking here today at the farm. So today we're going to make a smoked pulled pork. I normally will use a pork butt for this, or sometimes I'll use a shoulder. It's got a little bit more fat in it, makes it a little bit juicier, but I couldn't find that at the store. So today I'm going to actually use a pork loin on this. So you're going to want to set your smoker on 200 degrees. You're going to smoke this for an hour and a half per pound of meat. Okay, so 200 degrees on your smoker, an hour and a half per pound. Of course, always insert a thermometer and make sure that it's done. You really don't ever want to eat undercooked pork. So we're going to start out super easy. We've got our extra virgin olive oil. Remember, we have two different labels, same product. I'm going to drizzle this olive oil on top of my pork tenderloin. And what this is going to do is it's going to give it a little bit more moisture, but it's also going to really help my rubs stick to my pork. So I've got Dr. Harv's all-purpose seasoning, and I've also got Dr. Harv's barbecue pork rub, or barbecue rub, I guess it's not pork rub. These two, when I use them on pork, I basically do twice as much of this as this. So double this to this. And again, you guys know how I cook. I just kind of let her rip and then guess. I don't really measure anything. Remember that this is a rub. That means you apply it liberally. So I'm rubbing this in. I want to get that flavor on there really well. I'm going to follow it up with the barbecue dry rub. It's on there really good. I'm going to turn it over. I'm going to do the very same thing to the other side. All right, I'm going to take this and I'm going to really work with what's on my board. I want it on the meat, not on the board. So I'm going to just smear it on there. All right, you will notice on this pork loin that I've got a layer of fat on one side of this pork. I want that to be up. And the reason is because as this cooks, then that fat will melt down and give me more moisture in my pork. So I cannot cook without these pans. I get them at Sam's. I'm going to put it in a foil pan with the fat side up. I'm going to cover it with this foil, and then we are going to head out to the smoker and we'll put it on the smoker. Okay, so we're going to put this pork in the smoker. I've got it set to 200 degrees. Remember, it's an hour and a half per pound of meat in the smoker. And that's going to get you pretty close. You're also raising your temperature by putting it inside of the foil pan. Now, a lot of people, whenever they smoke stuff, and it depends on what I'm making, they'll put it directly on the smoker outside of the foil pan for a while, like maybe about an hour and a half or so, and that's going to create more bark. But I'm going to be shredding this pork, so I really am not as concerned about the bark, and this way I don't have to babysit it. So I can stick it in here. This is going to cook for about 3.5 hours, and it's going to be great, ready to go, and you know, it's just an easy way to get it done. So we'll check on this pretty soon. Okay, we've got our pork. We pulled it off of the smoker. So I'm going to put it up here on top of this cookie sheet. Now normally it's a little more tender than this because again I like to use a butt. I didn't have one, so I had to use the loin. So I'm going to take it and I'm just going to start shredding this up. So this is going to be delicious on our pulled pork sandwiches. I've kind of got this broke apart now with the big forks that I had, so I'm going to go ahead and just use a regular fork and continue to work that meat until it's broke up like I want it. I really think this is about right, but if you decided that you thought it might be a little dry, you have got all of this juice that you smoked this in already. So you can always just take a ladle and just add a little bit of that back in. It's just going to give it a natural flavor, give it a little bit more juice so that I don't want it greasy, but I do want it to be really, really tender and really, really good. Okay, again, we season this with Dr. Harv's all-purpose seasoning and with Dr. Harv's barbecue dry rub. Remember, it was twice as much of the all-purpose as the dry rub. We also put extra virgin olive oil on there to help the seasoning stick together. So we've got this ready to go. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to go ahead and brown some hamburger buns. And then when I serve this, I'm going to actually drizzle it with red balsamic vinegar. That is wonderful on your pork. It's going to bring out the flavors. Everyone's going to just really, really love it. It's really delicious. I'm going to add in a little garlic, extra virgin olive oil, just to add a little bit to the flavor, because that is really good with our red balsamic vinegar. So that's just going to kick it up a notch. I went ahead and seasoned it a little bit more with my seasoning that I put on before I started cooking, because I really want this to be packed with flavor. So I'm just mixing this up a little bit. All right, we're going to go ahead and get this ready to serve. So what I'm doing is I'm just adding my pork onto these sliders. I'm going to drizzle with some red balsamic vinegar. We'll top them off. And now they're ready to go.